Good morning and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Prashant Pavani. I hope you all are doing good, my dear friends. Today is 8th October. I'm sure you all are enjoying your Monday morning. I believe we all have taken a very good break from studies and everything because yesterday was Sunday. So, a bit of enjoyment time is important as well. This gives us a new energy. Now, today, before we move on to important items or before we start analyzing things, right, I have a question for you and I want you guys to think about it, right? It's a very good exercise. I'm sure you will find it very beneficial. So here you have this editorial here. The name of this editorial is Oldest Friends, in fact, right? So can you take a guess, like this editorial is talking about whom, right? Who are these oldest friends that you will find in this editorial? Pause this video here, think about it, right? It is something to do with current affairs and let's see how many of us can get it right. So I believe now you have done this exercise. So let's start. This is about India and Russia, of course, because Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, he was here in our country and we have signed some important agreements, right? He stayed here for just 22 hours, but the amount of things that we have signed and, the magnitude, or you can say this, the whole thing, this whole exercise of agreements. And even if we analyze these agreements, then we find that they are no small agreement. They are very big and very important agreements. So the first one is this one. $5.43 billion deal of S-400 Triumph missile system that we are going to purchase from Russia. We talked about offset clause yesterday, remember? The second item is cooperation in space, and the third one is new nuclear power plant. Now let me remind all of you that a couple of days ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, I don't know the exact date, but I know this thing for sure, that I provided you a small infographic about India and Russia working together to set up a new power plant in Bangladesh. Remember this thing? The second thing is we already have this Kudamkulam power plant in our country, and this is the latest one in our country. It is located in Tamil Nadu, and we are going to have a new nuclear power plant with the help of Russia. So that's very important in terms of energy security. Now you can take this point to wherever you like. When I say wherever, I mean to say that you can analyze it further. Think about energy security, electricity coming from nuclear power plant. We are going to use the latest technology. We are in fact using the latest possible technology in the world when it comes to this Kudamkulam power plant. So more electricity, more benefits for different parts of our country. In future we would be able to run our trains and this electronic vehicles and other things on electricity. So in terms of energy security, it's a very important step. Now talk about space, right? Space, it's helpful for our internet, for our ATMs, for disaster management and so many other things. Now, India and Russia. When I say India and Russia's bilateral relationship, what is one thing that you cannot ignore, or what is one thing that will definitely pop up in your mind? And I believe this thing is defense, isn't it? A defense system. Russia and India, we have been good partners as far as defense is concerned. In fact, we are a big buyer of Russian technology. We have been a big buyer, and most of the platforms that we have in our country, may it be fighter jets or submarines or big ships, right? Most of these items are, or these defense products are from Russia. Now, when we talk about space, can I relate this thing with a news item that we talked about a couple of weeks ago again? And we talked about this thing in detail, and we were talking about, or a bit surprised, not that much surprised as well, because it's about space and using space for future warfare. Remember, future warfare technology, where countries will either destroy each other's satellites or space weapons and other things. And we talked about USA, that USA has already started preparing itself for space wars that we may find in future. So here, when India and Russia, when we are together working, signing cooperation, that of course they are going to place one Indian in space, but this is means it's not the first time. We have been working for a very long period of time, but this itself can be there can be a possibility that in future we can have this space defense cooperation as well with each other. Now, one of the most important thing again is this one, this S-400 Triumph missile deal. As you can see, we started from here, then we are here, now we are here. Now, why this one is important? What exactly, right, this deal means for us? We talked about we talked about offset clause that has been dropped by India. So this indicates that this particular missile system is a defense necessity of our country at present. The second thing is, with the help of this deal or by signing this agreement, what we have, you can say, the clear message that we have released or have been, or a gesture that I'm sure America is going to pick up is this one, that when it comes to our strategic autonomy, right, we cannot have any sort of compromise at all. Not a couple of weeks ago, but it's been nearly, I think, 3 or 4 months. Sometime in recent past, Mr. Modi, he was attending one meeting and he used this terminology. He said that we want to be a good friend with Russia, we want to be a good friend with China, and we want to be a good friend of US as well. So that's what India is doing at present, right? We want to maintain our strategic autonomy, or in other words, you can also say that we cannot have all our eggs in one basket. Earlier on, we used to have all our eggs in one basket when we were purchasing everything from Russia, but now we are purchasing, as I'm talking about defense items, of course. So we are purchasing things from various different countries now. And we cannot rely on just Russia. Russia is, of course, our oldest friend. But that does not mean that we are completely, relied, our total dependence is on them. We have to diversify. We have to look, scan the market. What is the best thing available at most reasonable price? How it is going to be beneficial for us in terms of geopolitics, and all these calculations are made when you are going ahead with a deal. And of course, the most important thing is your defense requirement, what your Army, Navy or Air Force is seeking, what exactly they are requiring, what is their request, what they need. We have to keep that thing in mind as well. So huge amount of hard work, huge amount of time, investment, negotiations, money, everything is involved when we go ahead with this sort of deal. So we have to look after our own back, right? We cannot act as a puppet of USA. USA has been dominating the whole world for a very long period of time now. At present, it looks like its shine is fading away. But anyways, that's how its bureaucracy, or that's how USA's whole governmental culture is, to dominate and to issue orders. And it's about this CAATSA. Remember that we have talked about this thing in detail, so I'm not going into the details of CAATSA here. But let me tell you very briefly for new students. I'm sure there are many new students out there. So what CAATSA is, basically USA's parliament, or in USA they call it Congress. So the parliament of USA, they have passed a law called CAATSA, and I'll find the full form of CAATSA and what this CAATSA is about. So CAATSA is, if a friendly country of USA will have any sorts of relationship, if they are developing and expanding and enhancing relationship with these 3 countries, Russia, Iran and North Korea, right, then USA will apply, or sanctions will be applied on that friendly country. So India is a friendly country. Now India is, India went ahead with this S-400 deal. Earlier on, what we saw from USA was that USA said that it's fine, we are going to give a waiver or a sort of window of escape to India because India is a good friend. India has said that we are never going to use this S-400 Triumph missile against you, so you don't have to worry about it. Later on, USA said that no, you cannot get a free ticket here, right? You cannot escape that easily. We will analyze things. So basically what I'm trying to tell you here is that we cannot act as a puppet here of USA, and we have clearly indicated this thing by going ahead with this strategic autonomy. Moving on to other points that we find here. Bilateral trade between both the countries is not up to the mark, right? But we can enhance this thing. What we can do is we can invest in each other's country. We can seek investment from Russia to our country. We can, produce things for Russia and things like that. And then you have this Iran here. on the first week of November, that is next month, things will be clear with Iran, because we are purchasing huge amount of oil from Iran. And what USA is asking us to do is, USA wants us to stop oil purchase from Iran altogether. Now this itself, this sort of things have added this the fuel price in our country. So this is something that is not acceptable to India. We have to look after our own fuel as well as energy security, isn't it? So I believe, that's what I think, that we are going to go ahead with the same strategic autonomy. This can be a signal that when it comes to our defense requirement, when it comes to our energy security, we cannot take a chance. Then elections are just around the corner. So we cannot, the government of India, will not take this risk, because general election is going to take place next year. And then yesterday we were talking about some dates. At the end of this year, we are going to see some elections in some 5 states. So I believe that government is going to take a tough stand in this thing as well. So let's wait and watch. But so far, things are all right. So far, it looks like India has maintained this strategic autonomy by going ahead with this S-400 Triumph missile system. So that's everything. Now moving on to another item, and before that, I would like to inform all those students who are preparing for various defense exams. We have got pen drive and tablet courses for you guys. As you can see on your screen, we have got 6 different items. To find out more about it, do check out StudyIQ.com. Download the PDF of today's lecture from my FB page and Twitter handle. Now we have 2 very interesting articles. Both of them are different, but both of them are related with each other at its core. Now this article, the first one, it's called Misogyny in a Modern Idiom. Now this article is about a film, and this article is written by Chief of NCERT, former Chief of NCERT, and I have read Mr. I think his name is Ayyar. I cannot read it because it's too blur at present, but Krishna, I think his name is. And I have read many of his articles, and they are interesting. He talks about education, and here as well, a couple of points in this article are quite outstanding. Let's start its analysis. So this article is talking about a film called Stree. Right, of course I haven't been lucky enough to watch this movie, because I was doing this initial basic research for you guys, and I just saw the trailer of this, watched the trailer of this film Stree, and I'll reckon you guys just have a quick glance over its trailer. You will come to know what it is all about. So it's basically about a witch that is, killing men lot, and as we know, that witch is a lady, and this is again a thing. When I say a lady, I mean to say that witch is a female character, right? Right or wrong, true or false, reality or a myth. It all depends on what sort of stories we were told when we were child, and when we are adult enough, or you can say mature enough, what have we ever thought about these things, that whether the stories that we were bombarded with when we were child, all those stories right, and the impact of story on our life, because if you observe our communication, regular day communication, then as well you will find that it's all about stories, right? Very interesting thing. Think about it, all those marketing things, all advertisements, when you meet your friend, when you are having a telephonic conversation with your friend, or a chat or whatever, you will find that most of the time, right, what we are doing is we are telling stories to each other. Like I was in the school, or I was someone will ask you, where are you, or when are you coming, and why you were not here, etc. Then you will tell the whole situation, but that's basically your story, isn't it? You'd be saying that I was here, or I was there, etc., etc. So it's all about stories when it comes to our communication. And when we are young, we have been, for whatever reason, we have been told stories if we are misbehaving or not sleeping, etc. And we have all these mythical stories where you have a witch, and she is taking away kids and other things. And so all these stories, what they create is they create a sense of fear in us, right? And fear of women. That is very the core theme of this film. That's what it is about, and the core theme of this article as well. That when you have stories in which you portray women as this sort of thing, then as a witchcraft, or they are witches and other things, then it will create a sense of fear. And when this fear is mixed with desire, then it results in loathing. So this is one of the reason why this then happens. Then this sexual, this fantasy of sexual conquest, it takes a birth. And this is one of the reason why we find some Sikh ethos at present are there in our society, like rapes, right? That's the logical, you can say, or a connection that the writer is trying to present us. And he's of course talking about this film, but his analysis on this film is this one, that when you create this sort of fear, then to conquer, it's not about this fear, but then you think that I need to conquer this thing, and then comes out in this form, which is of course very sad. Now when we go through our education curriculum, we find that it's not talking about witchcraft, and it will never educate us about other things, right? It is only through films, and thank God there are film producers out there, film directors out there, story writers out there, that they bring this type of topics in front of us, that forces us, that will create the situation that we will ask so many questions to ourselves, like what type of society we are living in, and what are this stories doing with us, this childhood stories having such deep impact on us. And this is not just a sort of mythical thing that we are discussing here. You have some research background as well, studies as well are conducted on this thing, and it's been proved as well that when we are a child, when we are very like a clean slate, all those things that are told to us, they become part of us, and it becomes very difficult. I'm sure you might be knowing few people, they're from very childhood in their families. What they find is that their adults are telling them that you don't hang out with this community, you don't hang out with this caste people, and etc. And you will find that this thing will be there in them, forever. Hardly you will find someone will step out of it, or else they will feel that what their parents, what their elders have said is always right. But we forget this thing, that somewhere down the line someone has passed this bad thing, this miscommunication took place, not miscommunication, but this bad communication, or a propaganda was injected, and then it's been going on for a very long period of time. So same thing goes for boys as well, for upbringing of sons. It is very important that we don't create this sort of fear or hate, and this is not just about the stories, but they should see this thing in real life as well. And education can play a very important role. Education, not only formal education that we get in school, but also education that we get from our parents, from our elders, right? Respecting girls, and to protect girls, it is very important to stop this rapes and other sort of heinous crimes that sadly speaking are rising at present in our country. To stop these things, we have to re-engineer the male, this boys. If we don't re-engineer, if we don't change their upbringing, then things are going to continue. Because what we find is, with the help of education, women have women, they have changed for good, right? But as far as man lot is concerned, it is as it is. So moving on to another item, I hope things are clear to you. I'm sure when you'll go through this article, you'll find other items as well. But it's a very interesting article. I've tried my level best to make it as simple as possible for you guys. Right. So this one is about shifting the burden of shame. It's about this Nobel Peace Prize, Nadia Murad. She wrote a book called The Last Girl, And then you have other person as well. His name is Denis Mukwege. He's doctor, and he's a Congolese doctor from Congo, and he has been working and serving those patients, from age 2 to 70 who are victim of sexual harassment or sexual assault. In this last girl, this Nadia, she describes this abject cruelty, and she is describing this ISIS and how they were, ISIS. First of all, let me tell you, they have nothing at all to do with religion. This is not just from this case. There are so many cases out there. What they do is they will talk about something that is more visible. They know this thing. See, you and I, we don't know this thing, that if I tell you something about you, if I tell you something, bad about you, you may forgive me or you may not act. But if I say something to your community and your religion, then you will, your blood will start boiling. And this is the reason, is because it is associated with our identity. Identity is something that is at our core, but we don't have just one identity, right? We have so many identities throughout the day. In the morning, you could be a Hindu newspaper reader. Later on, you could be a vegetarian when it's lunchtime. When it's afternoon time, you could be maybe a tennis fan or maybe a boxing fan, etc. Later on in the evening, you could be a XYZ gym member or XYZ club member, etc. So throughout the day, we go through so many different identities. But throughout the history, we have seen one thing, that more people have been killed in the name of religion than any other thing. Can you believe this thing? A thing that is supposed to create peace. And in fact, I strongly believe that all religions, it's not just about my belief, it is about conviction. It is something that is reality, that all religions are there for peace. But there are few people out there, they know how our mind works. So what they do is, in the name of religion, they ask us to do this and that, and to hate this community, and to to use weapons against these communities and things like that. But we have to educate ourselves. We have to you should be able to develop this eye, that with the help of this eye, not this biological eye I'm talking about the psychological eye, with the help of which you can analyze what the motives of this sort of people are. So this gang leaders of this ISIS, they ask people to join ISIS in the name of God and things like that. But in reality, what they are doing is, they are doing all those things that are against all religions in the world. What they did when they conquered Iraq or parts of Iraq, they were here in this Sinjar region, and then you have this Sinjar mountain here, Sinjar, beg your pardon. So this Sinjar mountain region is home for this Yazidis people. Yazidis are ethnically Kurdish. And in case you find a question in your prelims examination about this Yazidis, so keep this thing in mind. So Yazidis are from Iraq. You find them in this Sinjar mountain range, and they are Zoroastrian. They follow this, the religious link with Zoroastrianism. So that is Parsis that we have in our country, right? The Parsi community. They follow Zoroaster as well. So this is a background of this Yazidi people. Now this girl, this Nadia Murad, she is a Yazidi as well, and she was abducted by this ISIS. What they did is they used to have this sex slaves, right? They killed all those males, and they killed all those older women, and they kidnapped all these young girls. And they were having these books and codes, like based on skin complex, how much you will get or how much you should pay for a girl and things. So this sort of trade was promoted by ISIS, slave trade, particularly of girls, and sex slave trades, to be more specific. And this girl here, this Murad, this Miss Murad or Nadia, she has been to so many different houses, and she was kept here and there, and she was been sold to many a times. So finally she escaped, and when she came back to the community, she realized that the community was not happy to accept her because she lost virginity, not taking this thing into consideration that she was in fact raped and she was abducted by this ISIS people. So finally she decided that she is going to write down this book, and by giving her Nobel Prize, the whole world, or you can say this Nobel community, as well as this girl here, this Nadia, with the help of her book, she has again reiterated this thing. And this is something that we have to understand, that it is not a matter of shame for a person who is being raped, right? It should be a matter of shame for a person who is thinking about this sort of crime, or who is thinking, of course, to plan or to conduct this sort of crimes, and a person who is the perpetrator, the criminal, he should be shameful about this thing rather than the victim. We should be supporting the victim. We should not be creating this situation where this perpetrator or this criminal is getting this advantage of societal thinking. So this is again a reiteration that we are not going to carve down. We are not going to keep our voice as well as our head down when it comes to rapes. We are going to stand tall, and we are going to stand tall for our ladies, and we need to create this environment, because or else you will find this sort of criminals are everywhere. And it's a matter of shame that nowadays we find so many cases taking place in our country as well. So that's everything in this article. This one is about this too easily offended. It's about this person that you can see on your screen. His name is Abhijit Iyer Mitra, and he's behind the bars at present. He said something about temple, and now he's behind the bar. Now, of course, when we behind the bars, of course. So when we nowadays again, what we find is that when you speak something about religion or some sort of some sort of sensitive topics, religion of course is not as sensitive, but the way we are getting more and more aggressive, it looks like religion as well is becoming a sensitive topic. No one is ready to listen to each other. I think the root cause of all these things is listening, right? That's a thing that again we are not trained for in our school. We are being trained for writing and reading and speaking, but no one trains us for listening. So that's a bit of problem with various different countries and various different cultures. Now this person is behind the bars, and Supreme Court has rejected his bail application. Supreme Court has said that it is better for him, or he is more safe behind the bars. So this is not fair. The other thing is, there are so many provisions we find nowadays that they are being misused. Every time you say something, police will knock your doors and they will throw you behind the bars in the name of you creating trouble. So we have to understand, right, that if something is it's not politically right for political parties, that does not mean that this system is snatching away our freedom, freedom to speak and other things. So that's everything. Moving on to news items very quickly. Stalemate in Kerala on Sabrimala issue. The chief priest's family, they are not happy with the government of Kerala. They are asking this Kerala government to file a review petition in Supreme Court. Then Indian school in Jeddah told to vacate because of various issues going on. Jeddah is a big city of Saudi Arabia, and we have only one CBSE school over there, so Indian kids are studying there. So now let's see what MEA is going to do about it. And then we have for Kumbh, Ganga gets a Swachh Army. Ex-servicemen, they are going to help with crowd management and cleaning and making sure that Ganga is not, its cleanliness is being respected by other people. But the thing is, do we always need a monitor to make sure that there is no sort of, this sort of bad activities or pollution? I think religious leaders as well, they should take a stand, and they should, pass this message, and they should create this awareness that harming nature, we have all the right to celebrate, but we don't have right to harm natural properties or public properties. Then we have the Centre begins work to widen pension cover. India best for investments, has been said by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Naxalism will be wiped out in 3 years, says Rajnath Singh. Now the question is, are we talking about Naxals or Naxalism? Because Naxalism is an ideology. So it's a bit, I would say, ambitious thing that Mr. Singh has said. But with this, I strongly support Government of India that we need to get rid of this Naxalism because it is not democratic at all. Again, in the name, just like this ISIS and other organization, we find Naxals as well taking advantage of so many things. Kim will meet Mr. Trump again, so that's a good news for the whole world. And then we have 2 items here. This national investigating or security agencies, they have requested government and they have supported this data localization issue, or not issue, but data localization. And the main issue here is that these companies are saying that it will add more cost for them and things like that. So let's wait for the government. And here you have this Russia offering us for next 20 years. It is going to supply us oil and other gas and other energy sources, LNG particularly. And we have this various different routes here. So we have this route too. We can take this one. This is more used by this BRI. This is what we say Arctic Belt Project of China. And then the best one at present, we are using this one, this route here. Right from here we are reaching, or from here we are reaching, but we can have a shortcut from Chabahar. So that's a thing. It's called International North-South Trade Corridor. And so that's a thing, right? Geography, we are a bit far from each other in terms of geography, but of course we can work it out. That's everything. These are your vocabs. This is Congo here, and to find out the name of this country. If you observe this picture, then you'll find the answer. It's not that difficult. These are your answers. These are your questions. That's everything. Enjoy your studies. God bless you all. Jai Hind.